Well, I think we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome to our regular Board of Directors meeting. I would like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. God,
Looking to see, other than these three cuties in the front, and no, Merlino, I'm not talking about you. Talking about Derek's little darlings. Do we have any, I'm trying to see if we have any scouts or anyone in the kids, students that we'd like to meet.
I didn't see anything.
Nope. Okay. Order of business is approval of the minutes, and we have minutes from a special Board of Directors meeting from Tuesday, January 24th. Have another one from January 24th. A girl ball. Oh, that was for
The governor's
visit. Then we have minutes from a workshop on January 31st for school improvement plan presentations, an executive session from February 1st, and a workshop from February 7th, and that was also school improvement plan presentations. I have a motion to approve.
I second that.
Of all those things.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. We have a number of proposals for action. Have any comments from the board?
I have one comment. Due to remote interest in Microsoft stock, I need to recuse myself from accounts payable warrants, vouchers 332534, 332651, and 332866.
I was just going to say.
You're not gonna have
wait
a
minute, we
quorum
don't have
of
a
votes,
quorum.
no.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a pause on the consent agenda, and we'll come back to that when
Yes.
Julie gets here. We need her vote. But more importantly, we have special recognition. And tonight we have two fun ones that we're excited to talk about. The first being National School Counseling Week, and I see lots of counselors in the audience, and we're really excited to honor our counselors tonight.
Well, I just appreciate them all being here, as many as could make it tonight. You know, it is Valentine's Day. And I
yeah.
forgot that, but it's really nice to see it. But more than importantly, it's more what they do for our kids and how much of an advocate all of our counselors are for our kids, what they do to make sure that things happen for kids in the positive way, and a huge part of our equity initiative in helping us make sure that we're really dealing with and trying to be as consistent as we can with being equitable for all kids who walk into the school. So we just appreciate the heck out of them, is what I would say. But we have a nice resolution that I think we would like to have Director Perkins read.
Proclamation. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Now therefore I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim February 6th through 10th, 2017 as School Counseling Week in Washington, and I urge all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Signed this 21st day of December 2016, Governor Jay Inslee.
You and I would like to ask Carl Smith, who works with our counseling staff, to come up. And I know he has some remarks and to receive the resolution from the governor. Thanks, Carl.
Good evening. I'm Carl Smith. Madam President, Board, Mr. Dieter, President. I'm very appreciative of the good words and kind words that about school counselors. When I sent out the message to the principals asking if they would like to add comments about some of the work that people, 13 responses from 12 different principals like to single out some counselors in their building for. Indulge me for a few moments and I can take a few minutes and call them out by name and appreciate it. Not have this in your seating order. If you could come up here and join me, please. Cassie Quintrell from Burnt Bridge Creek. Jenny Hall.
Then you're not taking it.
Pull it later on.
I can.
Who is that?
They can also go in.
I'll double check.
I told you you weren't sitting in the order these are printed. Last but not least, Shalinda DeTore. Please join me in congratulating these 13 people who identified by those principals as being exceptional. Thank you.
Before you sit down, we'd
to Rob, why don't you go ahead and give them this?
Oh, yes.
Give Carl that.
This come to Carl?
This goes to Carl to.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I'd like to echo what John was saying, that this recognition of the counselors is such a special recognition because the counselors, you do so much for our kids. And in our district, we have kids of many different needs, and you fill in so many different roles to help our kids. So thank you very much for all you do for our kids.
Glad there were so many of you here tonight. Now that we get to continue the fun. So we have, we're also celebrating and giving special recognition to Career and Technical Education Month. And so we're excited about that. And John, I know you have some thoughts on career and technical ed.
I sure do. Not unlike counselors, we have an amazing career and technical education program. There are so many options for kids in this school district. And we hear so much about all kids needing to go to college, and we all know in our heart of hearts, not college, but they need pathways. So they leave us with a set of skills that they can put to work in the best way possible for them when they leave school. And our CCTE programs are built for that, and many of our kids go into onto college, but they take college credits with them because of the CTE program, and they also go into the workforce and do some great things. They're just an amazing program from the Cascadia through every program that we offer in the system. So I'm going to introduce Kim Burhow, who is here because Susan Dixon had a medical issue, but Kim would probably be here anyway because she's really one of our really dedicated program coordinators. So. But we're going to read a proclamation, and then you can say if anything you'd like, Kim. All right?
All right.
Thanks.
So, Mr. Carson.
No, that's okay.
No.
I too have a proclamation for my favorite. Our folks go directly.
Awesome.
Whereas career and technical education offers students the opportunity. Whereas students in CTE provides make informed and benefit. Whereas leaders from business information technology. Whereas CTE prepares students offering integrated programs. Whereas ensuring that well as continued American global competitiveness, whereas 2017 marks the one Congress to provide funding for CTE. Therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the state, I proclaim February all people in our state benefits of the CTE program. Signed 24th day of January, J.
Well, on behalf of Susan Dixon, who our director, who can't be here, and all our dedicated staff, And teachers, thank you for this acknowledgement and recognition. I think everyone knows in CCTE, we strive really to provide those authentic learning experiences and really try to prepare our students for whatever choices they want to make after they walk out our doors. So thank you for your support and of all our programs.
Well, I'd like to just say that with CTE, there was a time when it was very separated out from our regular academic program, and now it's also integrated that, you know, it's pretty seamless, and I like it that it's has become that way and gives some good opportunities for our students. So thank you for your work.
Smith-Hughes Vocational Education Act. For those who have entered upon or who are preparing to enter upon the work of the farm, how far it's come
Yeah.
since then.
So did you really not know what that act was, Michael? Because
No.
I find,
I knew what it was.
oh, I was gonna say, I find it hard to believe that you don't know what it was.
Google was my friend.
Oh, well, then I was gonna
Yeah.
say, Rob, you knew what it was? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm reading
I
it off the
didn't.
Wikipedia page right now, and I'm not ashamed of that.
You're using your
Might have been
computers?
alive.
That's a good thing.
My vocational computer skills.
All right, we're going to go back
Yes.
to our consent agenda. We needed you here because these two have to abstain.
Oh,
We needed the
I
quorum.
apologize
No,
for
that's
being
okay.
late.
I know how that traffic can be. So we have, for the record, their abstention on those certain warrant vouchers, and now we can have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move
not
to
right
approve the consent agenda with mentions on their certain policies.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
I just lost my words and could only think of nay. Any opposed? Thank you. It just went out of my head.
Okay.
All right, great, thank you. Now we're back on track. So now we move into policy development. The first policy, and these are all first readings. They've been workshopped, and now we're ready to bring them into first reading. First one being policy 5231, length of workday.
And as you said, it was workshopped, 3 weeks ago now. And I'm bringing it back for a first reading tonight, and it basically talks about the Fair Labor Standards Act and making sure that with our administrators, we comply with that, with our certified staff. We comply with the 1.5 hour before school starts, 1.5 hour after school ends, including a 30-minute duty-free lunch, the kinds of things that are required by the law. And outlines the professional responsibilities teachers spend outside the building hours. And then for classified staff, it really talks about the law again and the 40 hours and what's consistent with the collective bargaining agreements and those types of things. But it gets us in compliance with the latest RCWs, and it gets us in compliance with the latest WAC. So I would like us to move this forward at the next board meeting unless there's questions that I need to research and bring back to you to answer at that time.
Comments or questions by the board? Do we have any comments or questions by the audience? Want to work a longer workday?
Sure they do.
Okay, well, it looks like this is one we can bring back for a second
Okay?
reading,
We'll
John.
bring it back as a second reading next time, which means we will bring it back and ask for approval.
All right, the second one up is policy 5240, evaluation of staff.
And once again, I haven't had questions over the last 3 weeks, but what this one does is bring us up to speed and into compliance with the current Washington State laws on the evaluation of staff, all staff, from teaching certified principals and associate principals to certified support personnel. We just saw some of those people here, counselors, librarian, media specialists, et cetera. Other administrative staff, and that would be more of the classified administrative staff like our maintenance supervisors and those folks, as well as our classified staff. And this just outlines what our requirements are to evaluate them on a regular basis. And it's different for each group. Teachers are on a comprehensive evaluation every fourth year once they make their permanent status in contract. Administrators in our district are every year, they're evaluated either as a focused or a comprehensive, and then classified performance will be evaluated annually for each person in the classified association. So again, I haven't had questions. It's just something that aligns with what we need to do to be legal and have a policy that people understand. So again, I'd like to bring it back 2 weeks from tonight, unless there's more research you have for me to do.
Do we have any questions or comments by the board?
It is another one you have to watch.
There's legislation right now that could change the certification, or the certified teachers one, pretty significantly.
Questions or comments by the audience? Okay, then. Up forward for a second reading then. The next one is policy 5251, conflicts of interest.
And this is just what it says. We just have to protect ourselves as a district from employees having a conflict of interest. You heard an example of it tonight when 2 board members had to excuse themselves from voting on certain items because they have a remote interest in the stock of those companies that we did business with. So it is making sure that people don't receive economic benefit from the sale of goods, travel, et cetera. If they work for us, receiving economic benefit for the sale of instructional training materials if they work for us that have been developed and purchased by us, et cetera. So it's just outlines what's acceptable and not acceptable for any staff member. And again, it complies with the RCW and the WAC on conflict of interest and remuneration for things that you shouldn't be paid for. Oh, I just think it's one of those things that we have to be careful of, to not set the district up for a crisis or a controversy based on somebody doing something that would really be looked down at by people in a general sense.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments by the board?
I don't remember whether we discussed this in workshop, and I apologize for that.
No problem.
Do you remember if we talked about possible impact on booster?
This does not apply to them. We'd have to have a different policy.
That
It would
Section
only
G
apply
has
if they
school
were
bulletin
run.
boards.
It says what?
Section G has school bulletin boards on it, and I know that have a board set aside for boosters to put.
Staff.
Which is fine, because the boosters have interest in raising funds, and they're not taking that, they're not a teacher taking money and putting it into their pocket for that. And this is what this is about, or an administrator or our classified staff. We do have, and we are researching what kind of policies we need to have in place for that kind of activity with boosters, but this policy would not cover boosters.
This only covers which a staff member has a financial interest.
Right,
And this would also include solicitation, so posting that you're doing
right,
private lessons.
right,
Okay.
exactly. No, thanks for the question. So again, I'd like to bring this back in a couple weeks for approval if there are no more research issues that you need me to look into.
Questions or comments? Any questions or comments by the audience? Policy 5260, personnel records.
Personnel records, we've not had this policy. This is a new policy for the district. There's always been a law about personnel records. This just codifies it for us to be in our policy handbook. And the legal references are RCWs. There's 3 different ones. We're just making sure that instead of having to go to some whack somewhere to find the response, people can find it in our policy manual online. So I recommend, because I haven't had any questions about it, I really recommend that, again, we bring it forward in a couple weeks if there's no more research for me to do. If there is, I'll get it done.
Comments, questions? Comments or questions by the audience? Next, we have policy 6405, evaluation of building administrators.
And because of the policy we read earlier tonight that covers personnel or evaluations, we are recommending the rescission of, or the rescinding of policy 6405, which was specific to the evaluation of building administrators, and that's included in the policy we read a few minutes ago on 5240. So we no longer would need this policy in order to be in compliance with the law.
Audience on this one?
We'll bring it back 2 weeks from tonight and have it rescinded if there's no change in your thinking around that. And then the last one is 6410, and we're asking this to also be rescinded because it is the evaluation of central office administrators, and it was also covered in the evaluation of staff in 54 or 5240. So this again is a policy that would just be a duplicate of something in the book.
Comments by the audience? Great. Okay, so that's a nice group that can move forward.
They'll all be second readings on the 28th, okay?
Perfect. Okay, next up, superintendent's report. Mr. Dieter?
Okay, I just have 3 items that I want to just remind you of. If I can get it open, there it is. Tomorrow morning, 7:15, Baptist Church across the street from Y East Middle School.
7:15.
Getting earlier and earlier.
7:30 if breakfast, but you know, I'm supposed to be there at 7:15. I'd like you to greet me.
I'll be there, John.
7:15.
Yeah.
Faith-based breakfast. This is where we bring a lot of our partners in and have a breakfast and have time to build more relationships, as well as have schools meet with their faith-based partners around the kind of assistance the partners are providing many of our schools. So I really look forward to this. This is our 3rd annual, and I hope we have many more. Also, I don't know that you know this, but on March 1st at 8:30 in the morning, that we are going to have a School of Distinction presentation made by the superintendent of ESD 112, Mr. Tim Merlino, because BBC was recognized this year as a School of Distinction. So we'll have an assembly for the kids to be able to get the recognition we think they deserve for their good hard work. That'll be 8:30 in the morning. It'll probably last 10, 15 minutes. It's not one of those things that goes all day. But if you're going to attend, I'd like you to let Elizabeth know so we can have some more things on our minutes that we need to read.
Said Wednesday the 1st?
Wednesday the 1st.
I'll be there.
And then the only other thing I was just looking out further is the next Principal for a Day luncheon is at Crestline, and it's on March 3rd, Friday, March 3rd, and that would be at noon. And that's all I have.
Great. Next, we have board comments. Worthy items or comments by the board?
Okay. I tried traveled a lot as the legislative rep over the last few weeks, and I was in.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, and it was. Went to D.C. with the Federal Relations Network from WASDA. Got to attend the NSBA conference that was attached to that. All I can really say about that is that we got all our meetings with our state representatives. We had 45 minutes with Senator Cantwell. And most of the topics that we just covered the spectrum of federal law, basically, and it was a very well-organized set of meetings and things. Patty Murray couldn't attend with us because she was busy in hearings taking care of the appointment to the Secretary of Education in Patty Murray's own powerful way. All I can really say about the tone in D.C. at that time in the Congress is that most of the people that we talked to were completely out of the loop as far as how things would change. Part of the delegation went to the Department of Education and came out essentially with instructions to gather as much information as they could before it disappeared. And then we found out a few weeks later that some of that information actually did disappear. And wary and tentative is about the way that I'd put it. And then I can talk more about the details of what went on in the meetings when we go to workshop. I just came back yesterday from the Washington State Olympia Day on the Hill side of those things, where we talked about state issues. Of course, McCleary still dominates. It's the big elephant in the room as we're talking about it, but we were able to go to all of the legislators that are relevant to our area except Paul Harris. Had an engagement that went long and talked to them about how happy we were that there are actually 2 or 3 proposals on the table for consideration, which is a difference in past years with respect to resolving school finance. And got to meet them all. There was a talk by, what's his name, Tom Ahern, the attorney, the news group, yep. The attorney who spelled out what he thought the consequences would be if the legislature didn't ask this time, and neither of them are very pretty. So we've got to keep an eye on all of those things and be wanting to ask you all what the board position is on this or that bill when we get to workshop and talk about it, so that I don't end up talking only about my opinions. Questions? He spoke to the 500 WASA, WASDA, WASBO letter group gathering and was not available for any other meetings after that. So I didn't get to talk to him one-on-one, but he did speak about his vision and explained why he got rid of the Doran lawsuit. And that reason isn't coming to mind, but it's sitting in my notes. So, oh yeah, I actually liked his message. It was very positive and optimistic about outcomes this time. Now I remember the reason that he gave was that he wanted all of the interest groups around education unified in message and not at each other's on each other's case, literally, and adversarially in the courts. And he thought that was a more powerful position than whatever the courts would decide about the legality of levy dollars. That's why he backed them out. Jay Inslee spoke, and basically to promote his budget and his ideas. Then we got into caucuses and got to work. One of the things that happened before the big conference started is that the large district caucus at WASDA gelled around an idea for future meetings instead of what had gone on in the past. They decided to get organized. I was watching them to do that, and the sense that I have about WASDA these days is that the large district interests are going to get more attention than they used to. That was a positive development to discover. I know that Michael and Edry Geiger over in Vancouver were instrumental in pushing at that for a long time. Well,
calm down.
you know, Michael, your name came up and nobody spoke ill of you.
It's a miracle.
Was there any conversation?
There were no formal conversations or any mentions in the speeches that the letter group leaders gave. I did run into Patty Wood, who was just elected to the state board, and understandably, the state board has got a opposing position to the one that we asked our lobbyists to sign in with when they had their hearings yesterday, but I wasn't able to attend those hearings. Any other questions?
Thanks, Rob.
It was fun.
Grueling at times.
Well, the DC trip was a total Frank Capra moment for me. It's really fun to see those places and
Lot going
go to
on.
Washington, as it were.
Yeah. Ian?
The red line.
Oh,
The red line is,
Yes,
a kiosk and you put your credit
Card.
connected to that, I did see an article or two, and one of the headlines about that, and one of the headlines was the next blue-collar jobs for the rest of the century are going to be computer programming, laboring type jobs that we think of. So I suppose that means I can expect my salary to go down. Yeah, it's true.
Well, I had a chance to attend the Spanish community tour. It was the first time Todd couldn't come to lunch.
Oh, we shut you out, didn't we?
I'm sure the
Yeah.
skill center, they were
But-
sad to not see you there.
It was quite interesting. It was the first time I had been on the Honored Citizens Tour before, but it was the first time I was able to attend the Spanish community tour. Absolutely loved it. There was a lot of enthusiasm from the parents. Our Spanish liaison, what's her?
Adriana.
She is amazing. I could have listened to her speak Spanish all day long. I didn't know what she was saying, but I could have listened to her. And she is a tremendous advocate for those families. You can just tell that she has a heart for it and that she's there to support them with whatever they need throughout the school system. So that was really neat to see. They asked really good questions that day, I thought. They were interested in the schools. They were happy with what they saw. And I had a lot of fun going around with them. So
There are a lot of
Hey.
people on the tour.
there was a lot of people. We had probably a whole bus full, I think, right? 40 people, yeah.
The full room.
Yeah, it was great. Forward to the next one.
Did we talk about the mini inauguration last time we had a board meeting?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll mention previously one of my favorite programs, the Culinary Arts program at Cascadia Tech. They had the invitation to go to the governor's inauguration to provide food. I guess it was hors d'oeuvres.
The desserts.
Desserts. And unfortunately, they could not go because we had weather problems at that time. But the governor, to his credit, changed his plans and made a trip to Cascadia Tech 3 weeks ago to have a mini inauguration. and so many of us were there. Vic was there, and Rob and John, and it was great because not only were the culinary arts kids able to, serve the governor and to meet him and everything, but many more kids at Cascadia Tech were able to interface with him. And I also remember talking with one of the video interns, Matt Griffin. He was so excited because he was going to be interviewing the governor. And so it was just a great day to be able to see the governor and see so many kids being able to interface with him. So I thought that was a great event.
And the governor was happy when they did a whole box of those great desserts and stuff and sent him a care package with him for the road home. Yeah.
Told us that his leaders wouldn't negotiate on McCleary unless they had food from the Cascadia Tech program. Looking out for the whole state by taking that out.
Is that why there's proposals now on the table? Because of those
It
desserts?
must be the case, yeah.
That program has such a good reputation. It is known throughout the state.
That student you were talking about, I watched him interview the governor. Because I couldn't get my car out of the way before they were finished without disturbing the interview, but he did a really good job.
That's good, because I know he was practicing the questions, and
He looked
he was
natural.
so excited.
Pass it on. He looked natural, he looked official and professional, and
Oh, great.
That's good. It was fun. I just want to add, as you know, I've been one of the members of the equity committee for the district, and we've been meeting, and we have some shorter meetings, and then we had a
Fairly long meeting.
all-day one. So things are percolating along. I know that coming up shortly, we'll have them on the agenda to give a report. Carl will probably lead
In
the
March.
charge in March. Yeah, that's what I thought. But I just wanted to let you know that that's going well, and it's been very interesting to hear the comments from different people from different schools and their perspective as it pertains to being a teacher or a counselor or a principal, and then I'm able to talk about the ramifications of our board policies and things that we're thinking about. So it's been a really good group, and I'm really proud of the work that they're doing. And then kind of, it wasn't really part of it, but kind of folds into it. I attended, John was there, and several others in the audience were at an ELL. What did they officially call that? It was like an ELL engagement, kind of looking for input as to what we're doing with our English language learners. How are we engaging parents in that process, and what are some systems we have in place? What are some things that we are finding challenging? And one of the big areas of concern, I think, with a lot of people was just the lack of teachers that speak other languages that we can, so as we grow our programs, and the whole idea of translating. And so I thought it was interesting that you brought up translated materials. That's an issue of being able to get things translated, and how do we have the resources to do it in the numbers of languages that are represented in our schools.
I mentioned that in the equity meeting we had before the conference began, and directors started handing me their business cards. Translated Department of Ed resources. Send it out to them. I'd like the staff who prepared it to be part of that.
No, we have no resources to do that right now. And we're talking policy manuals, procedure manuals, et cetera. And when you start talking that, they ought to be done at the state level rather than 295 districts trying to do that themselves.
They should. I guess
And those are the kind of things we're talking about at the meeting last night. Because the question was always, what could OSPI do to support you in supporting these families?
So, yeah, so lots of good work and good conversation. So that's my 2 cents for the night. Do we have any future agenda items that the board would like to suggest? Happy with the long list that we already have. Now's the time for citizen comments, citizens who like to speak to the board. Do we have anybody?
Come over here. Yeah.
You come up to the podium, and we'd like you to give your name and address for the record. This can be limited to 3 minutes and may not be personnel or legal in nature.
I have some forms. Is it okay if I hand them?
Oh, definitely,
out to you?
definitely. Thanks.
Hi, so my name is Janie Haygood. I live at 18112 Southeast 41st Way in Vancouver, Washington. So first, I just wanted to say that I'm the mother of 2 children. I have a daughter that's attending Shahala Middle School in 7th grade and a son that's at Fisher's Landing in 5th grade. And I really want to compliment the school board for their support of the Excel program. Both of my children are in the Excel program. My daughter was in the full-time at Illahee, and my son is in the pull-out enrichment program. And they have been a wonderful opportunity for both of my kids and such a good fit for their needs. And so I really appreciate your support of that very valued program. But the reason I'm here today is to speak to you with regards to this proposed House Bill 1602. It was sponsored by some of our local Clark County representatives, Brandon Vicki Kraft, and Liz Pike. The bill would permit school coaches to lead players in prayer after a game as soon as it's been ended by a referee, and would significantly fine school districts for prohibiting this proselytizing to students. Upon learning of this bill, I contacted my representative, Liz Pike, and she just basically explained that she would love to hear from the local government, which she considered the school boards, in regards to this bill. So I was unable to get the actual numbers of the religious demographics for Evergreen Public Schools. But what I've done some research, and Washington State is within the top 10 least religious states. The religious non-affiliation is the largest growing religious demographic in Washington. But just in regards to that, I don't know that it's all religions. It's not just the nuns. I am an atheist. I was raised Christian. But this to me is just a significant reminder that religious freedoms are diverse. And we've got a large, beautiful, wonderful, diverse population of different religions. I have many friends who are atheists. I have some that are Hindus and Buddhists. But this isn't even just about different religions. Even within Christianity, there can be conflict. And it's personal for me because when I was in high school, 27 years ago, I was the varsity volleyball team captain, and we had a new player come and join our team. And she and her family had filed a lawsuit with the ACLU. They lived in a small town about 10 miles away. It was about 270 people in the town, and they weren't Mormon. And so they had filed a lawsuit, and they had been ostracized, and she had to leave her high school her senior year. And I have a quote from a news article about her. She's still a friend of mine. Her name was Joey Long, and it just says, Long, an athlete, complained that her basketball and volleyball coaches required pre-game prayers. She says, I don't participate in these prayers. To me, prayer is a very personal thing. Besides, the prayers that the coaches and the students say are always LDS prayers. The ensuing battle cut the small community, 85% of whose members are Mormon, into bitter religious factions. The plaintiff claimed they were socially ostracized and branded traitors. Long stated in a court affidavit that she lost her friends because of the issue. I hate having the church in my school. It leads to bad relations between me and my classmates and seems to separate us. So I saw her struggle her senior year in completely uplifting her life and moving to a new school because of this same exact situation, which we've been, I thought, solved 50 years ago, but it continues to come up. This bill will fine schools who don't or who prohibit this type of action. But to me, when coaches lead student athletes in prayer, whether before, during, or after sporting events, they're creating a very divisive environment where students feel forced to participate for fear of lost playing time or even loss of possible scholarships, opportunities, not to mention defeating the meaning and my purpose and the foundations of what it means to be a team. Schools should help create a community, not divide them. And which is why I'd like you to please contact your local representatives and let them know that House Bill 1602 poses a threat to the religious freedoms of the diversity of Evergreen Public Schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Anyone else? We are going to go into recess for about 10 minutes to sign documents. Then we will reconvene in a board workshop where we have on the agenda capital renewal projects. Whoops, what page? Facilities Committee update, legislative updates, policies revised by WASDA, student school calendar, and then there'll be a budget update. We'll also be doing some book study on helping children succeed. Thank you for joining us tonight.